Hello class, today we are going to talk about section 4.6, Scales and Scale Drawings. Before we begin, I'd like to define exactly what a scale and a scale drawing is. A scale is the ratio of the length of the model to the length of the actual object. Sometimes to help you remember things, it's best to come up with some sort of an acronym to help you remember. The way I remember that a scale is the model to actuals, it's MA or MA. If you remember MA, that will help you remember that it's model to actual. A scale drawing is an enlarged or reduced drawing of an object. We often see scales and scale drawings in things such as maps, blueprints, and models of objects such as atoms that are too small to be seen unless they are magnified. Please take a moment to pause this video and write down the definitions. Now let's talk about how to find a scale. Since the scale is the ratio of the model to the actual length, if you're given the dimensions of the model and the actual object, you can make a ratio by putting the model's dimensions as the first number in the ratio and the dimensions of the actual object as the second number in the ratio. Let's try an example of this. In a picture, you are 1 3/8 inches tall. You are actually 5 foot 4 inches tall. What is the scale of the picture? Well, you know, in the picture, that would be the scale drawing, you're 1 3/8 inches tall. In actual life, you are 5 foot 4 inches. So the scale is 1 3/8 inches to 5 1/3 of a foot. The reason why I put it as 5 1/3 of a foot is because 4 inches is 1/3 of a foot because there are 12 inches in a foot. Please take a moment to pause this video, put this example in your notes, and the steps to find a scale given the dimensions of the model and the actual object. Now let's talk about how we actually use scales. A scale drawing or model is proportionate to the actual object. So we can create a proportion and find out the dimensions of the model or the dimensions of the actual object given the scale. For example, on a map, the distance from Campton to Barnesville is 3.75 inches. If the scale in the map is 3 inches to 250 miles, what is the actual distance between the two cities? The first thing I want to do is take the scale that I have and write that as a fraction. The best way to write our ratios and most useful in these cases is as a fraction. So it's 3 over 250. 3 is my model length and 250 is the actual length. So whenever when I write my second ratio, I want the model to go in my numerator as well. Since my model is 3.75 inches, I'm going to put that up there. And I don't know what the actual distance is, which is what the 250 represents in my scale, so on the bottom I'm going to put the variable x. Now to solve this problem, I need to cross multiply first to get an equation. When I cross multiply, I get 3x equals 250 times 3.75. When I do my multiplication out, I then have 3x equals 937.50. To finish solving my problem, I need to divide both sides of my equation by 3. 937.50 divided by 3 is 312 1/2, which means it is 312 1/2 miles between Campton and Barnesville. Please take a moment to pause this video, write down the statement above and the example in your notes. I would again like you to take a moment to pause this video and try the example listed below on your own. After you finish the example, please resume the video to check your work. Looking at my problem, I see that my scale is 2 inches to 5 feet. The most helpful way for me to write my ratio of my scale is as a fraction, so I'm going to write that as 2/5. Looking further into this problem, I see that I have the actual length of 64 feet. Since the scale is the ratio of the model to actual, my actual distance needs to go in my denominator. So my second ratio that I create, 64, will be in my denominator. Since I'm looking for the length of the model, that will be a variable in my numerator. So I'm going to call that x. Therefore, I now have the proportion 2/5 equals x over 64. To solve this proportion, I need to cross multiply. When I do so, I get 5 times x equals 2 times 64. This simplifies to 5x equals 128. I divide both sides by 5, and I find that x equals 25 6/10. Therefore, the length of my model is 25 6/10 inches. Please take a moment to pause this video and correct your work if needed. Before you finish taking your notes, I would like you to write down at least 2 places where you find scales or scale drawings in real life other than the 3 I listed earlier in this video.